Hi everyone, my name is Agnes Hu. I'm a junior living in Wilson House. I'm currently majoring, and I will be majoring in history and sociology. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi everyone, I'm Iris Afonchow. I'm a sophomore here at Smith. I live in Park House. I'm a government major as of last week. Uh, yay!
That's
And I
scary.
use she, her pronouns as well. So
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah, welcome everyone. So today we're going to be talking about housing on Smith campus. It's a little bit different than most other colleges, I would say. So the big thing on Smith campus is the whole idea of houses, not dorms. So what we're really trying to emphasize here is this idea of a house community. When you go into a house and you start living there, there's always like this nice community that's there,
Hmm.
and it really does feel more like home than I would say like a dorm does. That's the feel I
Yeah,
got.
I'd say so. A big thing is that sometimes when I visit my friends at their other schools, they say that when you go from one dorm to another, you kind of wouldn't know the difference
Mhm.
otherwise because they're all
Yeah.
very similar. But Smith, if you haven't been in a house before, once you walk into it, you're like, wow, this is very different from my own house.
Mhm.
So every house has its own kind of like
Personality, I would
personality.
say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah. And I love how each house has like their own mascot too.
Oh,
Like my
yeah.
house's mascot is a taxidermy beaver.
What's its name again?
It's called Cletus.
Cletus, yeah.
Wait, what's your house's mascot?
We're like debating it.
You're
We
debating it?
Yeah, yeah. We're going with a Dalmatian for now, but some people
That's
wanted it to be a
cute.
forget-me-not because
Oh,
the joke with Park House is that people forget where it is, even though they walk past
that's
it
true.
every single day. It's
That's
the first
accurate.
house you see if you go through the main entrance of Smith College.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you walk outside of the admissions office, Park House is right there.
hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, so there's a lot of differences between the houses too, right?
Yeah, there are houses that house as few as about 16 people or as many as about 100 people. So the smallest houses would usually be our co-ops, which are open to upperclassmen, and annexes as well, which are part of other houses but are just split into two buildings. We also have different housing areas. The Quad is one of the most well known. We also have Center Campus. We have Upper Elm Street, Lower Elm Street, and we also have Green Street. I believe that's
I
everywhere.
think so. Central Campus, did you
Center
say?
Campus,
Yes.
yeah. And then the Quad, on housing forms at least, is
Yeah.
split into East Quad and West Quad.
Yeah, so I live in Wilson House, which is actually the biggest house on campus. So Wilson House has its capacity is a little over 100 people, and like that's the biggest it goes up to. But most quad houses tend to be like 60 and up, I would say. So the quad is where all the bigger houses tend to be, although there are quite a few big houses spotted around campus as well.
Hmm.
Um, Wilson House is also technically in the West Quad. You can't really tell the difference though. Once you enter the quad, it's all like one big rectangular thing that all looks like one big house, but it's actually a bunch of different houses. Um, what else? Wilson House is well, the quad tends to have a lot of singles. Wilson House, after your first year, you are guaranteed a single actually. And actually, as a first year, I got a single.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anyone who lived in Wilson who had a double their first year, just from people that I know.
Oh,
So,
really? Yeah. There's a couple of people. I'd say most of the first years going into Wilson have doubles at first. Some people
okay.
move out and then they get dingles,
Oh
which is
yeah,
nice.
the coveted
The
dingle.
coveted dingle life.
That's an open double.
Yeah.
So we just kind of mush the words double and single together.
Dingle.
Dingle.
Yeah. Overall, I personally really enjoy living in the quad. For me, it's a nice walk to my academics, and sometimes it's my only exercise. But also for me, it's just a good separation between like my home and my academics. So it feels like I'm going home at the end of a hard day of classes.
Hmm. For me, Park House is in Center Campus, so it's kind of in the middle of other offices or and also academic buildings, but not very close. It's I would say it's as close to the quad as you can get without actually living in the quad. So I get my kind of distance from school when I'm done with everything for the day, which I like. Um, a special thing about Center Campus is that a lot of the houses have annexes, or I guess the best way to describe it would be if you were to do your house lottery, the annex and the house would be counted as one house. So everything you do with the annex is as one house. You have tea weekly, alternating between the two places, the annex and the house, and yeah, we usually have one week in the house and the other week in the annex so that people can hang out with each other. We also, if you want to stay in your house but want to have a smaller actual space, you can live in the annex because there's usually no more than 20 people in that building. So Park has Park Annex, Haven has Wesley, and I know, ooh, I feel like I'm missing one. Sessions, that's what it was. Sessions, the oldest house on campus, also has an annex. So, yeah, a lot of choices there.
Yeah.
Most people have doubles their first year living on Center Campus, but depending on lottery number, you can get a single your sophomore year.
Mhm. Yeah. So let's see if we have any questions.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, okay. So the first question is, so are you entering into a community that is already developed? Yeah. So I would say that once you go into a house as a first year, there's already something of a community there, and there's always like a ton of upperclassmen who are there to like welcome you. But I think the house also develops with each incoming first year class. Like the house community changes and develops with the first year class. So you're entering into a community that is developed, but it's also developing with you.
I mean, the house community at Smith is something that's been around for a long time, and these houses are really old. So there are traditions and parts of the community that are very developed, but things change with every year. That's why at the beginning of the school year, every house has a house meeting to kind of determine what house guidelines they want to change, what they want to keep, just like how they want to develop the community every single year. So always room for change.
Yeah. All right. The next question is, what do you have to do to get a single during your sophomore year?
During your sophomore year.
So most first years, most first years get a double. I think I saw a statistic saying that maybe around 15% of first years get a single. So the big majority get a double their first year. But for sophomore year, unless you're living in the quad, I think your chances of getting a single are much, much lower. In the quad, you are more likely to get a single your sophomore year. For example, in my house, as I said, after your first year, you are guaranteed a single. But most other areas, you are not, simply because most houses have more doubles than singles. But Wilson House has more singles than doubles. So it really depends on the house.
Your first year, pardon me, your first year, it's mostly Res Life who's determining everything for you until maybe halfway into your first year when you're allowed to maybe put in a room change if you'd like a single. But your sophomore year, it's all a matter of what your lottery number is. So
Yeah, that's so it's kind of random.
It's all kind of by chance. So if
Yeah.
you get a low number, then you're able to pick your room first amongst the people in your house, and you have a higher chance of getting a single that way because there haven't been as many people who have chosen before it was your turn. So, luck of the draw.
Yeah. We all go through it. So, next question is, how is housing determined for first year students? So what happens is that at some point you have to fill out a housing form, and that should be online in Bannerweb, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there you rank each area of campus, and there is like a comment space where you can request for a specific house, but you aren't guaranteed that you will get into that house. It's also kind of luck of the draw. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. You also, on that same form, you You rank the areas of campus you like, and you also put in the usual roommate preference questions, such as when do you usually like to go to sleep? When do you like to clean? Or how messy or clean do you like your room? It's like that.
Mhm. Yeah. So the next question is, what are meal plans like at Smith? Um, so the meal plan is actually included with your room and board package, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember being confused about that when I was coming in, because at some point, I just come in for orientation and I realized that I had at no point actually paid for a meal plan like my brother had, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh my god, do I have a meal plan? Am I going to eat here? But no, it is included. So you basically have unlimited, like, meals.
Okay,
Like,
so to put this into more detail, um, I know at some larger universities you have a bunch of meal plans you can choose from, but at Smith, if you are on the meal plan, that's the only meal plan. So you get 10 swipes per day, which is more than you could possibly ever use in one day. So we just consider it unlimited. So that's how we consider it. The only exception to that would be if you lived on an on-campus apartment or if you lived in a co-op because they make their own food because they have. That's kind of just part of the condition of agreeing to live on those areas of campus.
yeah, then you are on the meal plan and you can sort of cook for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of what you want to do essentially.
Hmm.
So next question is, are some houses known to be more noisy than others? Yeah. So as per usual, as for most colleges and universities, the quad is sort of known to be the place that's noisier than most other areas of campus. Honestly, though, I'm like a person who likes the quiet when I'm trying to sleep, and it can be noisy, but it's honestly not too bad. I think it's fine, honestly.
I think that kind of stereotype about the quad just comes with the fact that there are more people there than
Yeah.
anywhere else. So
Mhm.
when you have more people, there's
Yeah.
obviously more voices around you, I guess, at any given moment.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can't speak for anyone who lives in the quad, but yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have that reputation, though, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's fine though. It is probably noisier than other areas, but for someone like me who likes the quiet, it's still fine. So the next question is, how is the housing organized? Are there special dorms or is it just randomly organized? Um, so there are areas of campus. I guess that's how it's organized on the housing form, at least. So there's like West Quad, for example, East Quad. Um, there's also Green Street, which is much closer to academic areas. Um, and there are like special houses, I guess, just
Hmm.
by virtue of like the co-ops, which
We have Chase House also, which
oh,
is
that's
substance free.
yeah, there are a couple of houses that are a little bit different. Cutter House also has like a French-speaking community,
Yes,
right?
that also has its own special application.
Yeah, and yeah, there is like a lottery system to get into some of these special houses.
Yeah. But they are also okay. They also have housing coordinators, so a staff person who you can go to if there's anything specific in your area of campus that you need to address.
Hmm.
So it's organized.
Yeah, and now
Now.
we have somebody here to talk some more about different aspects of the housing system.
Woo!
Yay! Guest speaker.
You guys sound so excited. Hello. Hi, my name is Naomi. I'm a junior. I'm a psychology and neuroscience double major here in Smith, and I use she, her pronouns.
Yes.
Thank you for coming onto the show.
Yeah, welcome, welcome.
My pleasure.
So where do you live?
Right now, I live in Lawrence House, which is on Green Street, different than Agnes or Iris.
Much different.
Much different. Green Street, as opposed to the quad, is known as like the quieter section of campus. I would say that yes, it's more quiet because I do visit the quad a lot. There are like some instances of like people screaming, but like that's only for like 2 seconds. We have these things called quiet hours, which is basically like hours in the night where people should be quiet and not like disturbs anyone's like sleep or study time. And for Green Street, at least in my house, it starts at 11 p.m. and I believe on weekdays. And in the quad, I think it's just at like 12 a.m. or like slightly
Yeah.
later. So it's like not that much difference.
Yeah. Yeah, but you lived somewhere before you lived in Lawrence too, right?
Yeah, before I moved to Lawrence, I lived in Albright, which is in the Lower Elm area. The Lower Elm is great. I loved it because it is the nearest section of campus to downtown. I only had to walk like a minute and a half to get to my favorite cafe, which is Woodstar, and
yeah.
Harold's is just like 2 minutes away.
blah, blah,
So it's a
blah.
strategic position on campus.
Yeah.
A lot of the Elms, and also the center campus, I feel, they're like known to be like in the middle. They're not known to be like particularly noisy or particularly quiet. And what's great is that they're also somewhat separated from campus, but just like by a road. So it's not like all the way in the quad, but also like not right on campus, which is where I live right now. Takes me like 30 seconds to get to class some days.
Yeah, I will say the one downside of living in the quad is that I have to plan 12 minutes out of my day to get to my classes. And I have to plan 20 to get downtown.
Sad.
It's a ordeal. Yeah. Yeah.
So a question I have is, how did you get into res life?
Yes. So the reason why I moved from Albright to Lawrence is because I got the Res Life position. Res Life is short for Residence Life. I am head resident this year, and that's basically like the RA equivalent in Smith. What is my job?
What is your job?
What is my job?
I'm just
I'm basically the kind of like the point person between students and administration. So people come to me when they like have problems with like their housing, their rooms, and sometimes if the administration wants something relayed, they also come to me for me to like tell that to the house. It is a work study position, so I'm basically hired by the campus and I get money for it. Yeah. You also get like several like discounts for room and board if that's something you're interested in. Always good. And how did I get in? They have an application every single year. Usually, most of the recruitment happens in the spring, and you can apply like coming into your sophomore year. Many of the HCAs I know are sophomores right now, and then HRs are usually like seniors and juniors who already know a bit about like Smith life. The application's pretty simple. It's like a Google Doc, and you just like tell something about yourself. You go through like an interview, and then you get the job, hopefully.
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 We can hope, yeah. But when you become Res Life, you have to move out of your house, right?
Yes. So I describe Res Life as like 5% policing the house, like kind of like enforcing all these like housing policies. And because of that, it's just a lot easier to get mad at people who are not necessarily your best friends. And that's why they move you out of your old house so that you're like in a community where like you can also build that place, but at the same time you're not like buddy buddies with everyone in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's answer some more questions. Are some houses known for specific cultures? Yeah, again, I would guess that the quad houses, again, are a little bit noisier, known to be sort of more like the party places, I guess. And even some houses in the quad are known to be quieter than other houses in the quad. Like,
Yeah.
my house is known as the Green Street of the quad because we're quieter than some of the other quad houses.
I heard that about King and Scale.
Really?
We're
Maybe-
all the Green Street of the quad.
Yeah, all of the quad is now Green Street.
We've switched.
I don't know. I feel like each house has its own personality again. Like, I don't know. Like,
So like in
Talbot has the
Lawrence-
moose.
Yeah.
Everyone hears about the moose.
House does have their own like traditions. So for example, it's Valentine's Day. And in Lawrence, we do pajamas. So for like the afternoon, you bake cookies, and in the evening, you decorate the cookies with like frosting and everything.
So cute.
Yeah, and so a lot of houses have those like small special traditions,
Yeah,
I would feel.
a lot of those I don't hear about unless I either live there or hear
Yeah.
about it from a friend or walk in there when they just opening something. And they're like, join us, why don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. So each house has a lot of different stuff happening. Yeah. So let's answer another question. Is it easy to be vegan on campus? Yeah. So we have a vegan vegetarian dining hall. Along with that, we have so dining now has like these little picture things, and it has like a little leaf on it that lets you know which of the foods that they have put out is vegan or vegetarian. So and there's always like a salad bar in every
Yeah,
dining hall
every
as
dining
well. So there's always a lot of options for dining. Smith is very concerned about making sure they can meet everyone's dietary restrictions or needs. Yeah. Another question is, can you choose your housing depending on your majors, and certain buildings will be closer to certain houses?
I mean, technically, yes. Like, if you know you're going to be majoring in, for example, like engineering, and the majority of your classes will be in Ford Hall, maybe Green Street is like a strategic position to be in. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I know engineers who live in the quad, and it doesn't really matter where you live based on like your majors and like subjects of interest, I guess. It's really more of like where your personality fits, what type of community is best for you, and what you're comfortable with.
The only downside is just how much or how little you have to walk, and depending on the person, walking more might be something you want or need.
Sure.
Maybe I should exercise. Okay, next question is, what are some dorm traditions? Let me think.
What's
Tea.
special for?
Yeah, tea. Every house does something different for Mountain Day.
Yeah.
That's true.
So Mountain Day is this really cute, ultra fun tradition that Smith has, and so does like Mount Holyoke too, but whatever. But at Smith in fall semester, the president of Smith College looks outside in the morning. It's like a crisp fall day, like it's like what 5 in the morning maybe, and she's looking outside and she's thinking, wow, it's gonna be such a beautiful day. Like the students ought to be outside on this great day instead of being in classes, and she decides to cancel all the classes, and I think it's 7 in the morning. 7 in
Yeah,
the
about
morning.
7 when the bells start ringing.
Yeah, and all the bells across campus start ringing, and really everyone gets really excited and jumps out of bed and starts screaming from excitement. It's really cute.
Yeah.
And so once classes are all canceled, every house does something different. So my house usually goes apple picking in the morning, and we come back, eat lunch together, and have a picnic out in the quad. So that's our thing.
My house has a bunch of different traditions. We have, a big one for Park is we have a murder mystery party during first semester.
so cool.
We make up a whole scenario, and people choose characters to be, and they try to solve the mystery by the end of the night. And we have a cultural potluck thing that we do every year as well. We do a lot of paint nights, so we'll bring out a bunch of paint and just do whatever you want for a few hours. It's nice. And on Mountain Day, we usually also go apple picking and then bake as many things as we can and have a movie marathon for the rest of the afternoon. It's nice.
For Lawrence, for Mountain Day, we also go apple picking, and then the rest of like the day we do baking. We are a very baking heavy house. During finals, at least
stress
two
baking.
people
Stress
per
baking.
day would bake a batch of like brownies or cookies. So we always had like snacks throughout finals. A more like general tradition I think most of the houses have would be, I guess, like fall and spring weekend.
Yes.
Yes, and they're basically like house parties, house
Yeah, they're
celebrations.
Like
Formal.
semi-formal.
Yeah, semi-formal, depending on the house.
Like you can get dressed up if you want to, but if you don't, it's fine. Like everyone's just chills in the house, living room usually, and
There's
like
usually food,
lots of pictures
dancing.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and And then the last one is usually senior banquet. That's to like
Ooh,
celebrate the
yeah.
seniors who are leaving, and that's when they give their senior wills. That's a tradition I think is in,
That's a fun one.
in like most houses.
Yeah, that's a
Seniors
really
give
fun one.
like these items that have been passed in the house like years sometimes. Yeah. And so for Albright, what I remember most is we have this NSYNC blanket. Um, it has, and in the middle of it is like Justin Timberlake with his like curly ramen hair, and that has been passed down for years. But yeah, that's like a special Albright senior will.
A lot of wills tend to go down the quirkier route.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, I got a super basic one, but I got like my big sib gave me this like W. I think it's actually an upside down M.
Oh, no.
But I hope she doesn't watch it. But I think it's an upside down M, but it's supposed to be a W, so it's just like that. And like it has like a bunch of seniors' signatures on them, and it goes back into like the early 2000s, I think. So it's been passed down for a while.
That's cute.
Yeah. Okay, so. Oh wait, another tradition is Big Sib Little Sib.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Best
speaking
one,
of Big
best
Sib,
one.
yeah. So Big Sib Little Sib is this like huge tradition that like all the houses do, where an upper class person is paired with an incoming new student, first years and transfers.
And transfers.
And so for a week, there is a strict curfew on all the new students, and they have to be in their room at a certain time so that their big sibs can decorate their door and give them a couple of little presents. And at the end, there's
Anonymously.
like, yeah, it's a surprise. And at the end, there's like a big reveal, and it's really
Yeah,
cute.
it's fun testing throughout the week who could possibly be your
Yeah.
big sib.
I know, you're
When
like,
you don't know anyone either.
I know.
Yeah, if you're a first
It's
year.
great because it helps you get once you're in a new house. Which kind of answers that question. What kind of community building activities occur within each house? How do you
Yeah.
get to know each other?
Big Sib Little Sib
Big
is
Sib,
a
Little Sib.
big one. I became really good friends with my Big Sib, who I didn't really know too well beforehand. But there's a lot of community building activities. Like there are
Your floor bonding event.
yeah.
that you're-
So my house is doing these things called the floor bonding events because my house is so big. It's sometimes a little bit harder to get to know everyone in the house because I have a bad memory, so trying to memorize 100 people's names is really hard. So we're doing this floor bonding activity. So last night there was a third floor, which is where I live, sort of Valentine's Day themed like cookie session thing. There's also the tradition of teas,
Weekly
as well,
teas,
and study breaks. So those are all ways you can get
Oh,
to know
great.
people in your house.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so okay, one more.
All right, one last question. Oh, well, it'd be,
Let's just.
yeah, that one.
All right, so one last question we'll do is what type of coats would you suggest for the winters? Very important.
Yeah.
Winters here get very cold.
Depends on where you're from, but like
That's true. That's
Yeah, your
true.
context for what counts as cold.
Yeah, if you live in like Siberia, this might be a little bit milder than you were expecting. So I live in the East Coast, but I still get cold very easily. So for me, like having like a nice thick jacket is really important.
Do you want to pull it up?
Should I pull it up?
Yeah, why not?
It's right there.
Okay.
Puffy coats are very helpful.
Yeah, you need like a nice big puffy coat. Personally, I would suggest a long one, but that's a personal preference. Yeah, I mean having like a good, big, thick coat is like really important because of course you like need to layer a lot underneath, but you still need like a nice big coat to top it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say.
I also have several coats. I have like a raincoat, which
That's
I
true.
use when it's like fall or late spring when it's rainy, and then I have like a wool coat for like today when it's like kind of warm and sunny outside. And then of course I have like my serious down jacket that I need to use when it's like sledding season.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What kind of coat do you have?
I got a new coat. It is a yellow bean jacket. It is puffy. It has the removable hood,
Oh.
so helps you out during the season. It also has a bunch of pockets. So many pockets. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good 'cause you
Pockets
need
help.
your hands to be warm.
I
Yeah.
know.
Also, I'm kind of tall, so everything that's meant to be a long jacket is usually just a little bit shorter than intended. So I went for one that also covers the butt. It's very helpful.
Yep.
It's cold out here.
Yeah,
so
but
hopefully that helps.
a good coat and a lot of nice layers will
A lot of
definitely get you
layers.
through the winter season.
And boots.
And boots.
And
I feel like
boots.
boots are important.
Boots are also very important.
Hopefully that helped.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Yeah.
Yes, and thank
Thanks,
you for
thank
joining
you for joining us today.
Yeah.
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 So tune in next time.
Yeah.
We'll be
Coming
back.
soon.
Do we happen to remember our next topic?
Academics.
So if you have any questions, be sure to stop by next time, or in the meantime, you can also visit smithbysmithies.tumblr.com, and you can submit your questions, and we'll be happy to answer them.
All right. Thank you guys.
Bye. Happy Valentine's
Bye.
Day.
Yeah. Happy